How will Moshiach appear on the scene? There are two verses that describe the appearance of Moshiach. One verse in the book of Daniel describes the coming of Moshiach as someone coming with the clouds of heaven. There's another verse that speaks about the coming of Moshiach as a poor person riding a donkey. The difference between them, obviously the verses are speaking allegorically. The difference between them is that a man coming on the cloud of heaven represents Moshiach coming in a very wondrous, quick, supernatural, speedy manner, like the clouds of heaven, which first of all they're in the heavens and not in the earth. He's coming in a heavenly, supernatural fashion. The clouds also travel very quickly. Moshiach will come on a cloud, means that his coming will be very quickly. And also it will be right away apparent as the process starts, it will be clear that Moshiach is coming. It will be a process which is very clear and overtly recognizable as a messianic process, just like the clouds of heaven that are obvious to all that they're coming, they are there. The other hand, the verse that speaks about Moshiach as a poor person riding a donkey is highlighting a different approach to Moshiach. It's highlighting a coming of Moshiach in a manner which, first of all, it's not miraculous, like a poor person riding a donkey. The donkey is very slow, definitely compared to a cloud. It's much slower than a cloud. Also, it doesn't represent something supernatural. It's not a heavenly occurrence like the clouds in heaven. It's a very natural occurrence, a person riding a donkey. Furthermore, a poor person riding a donkey would not attract much attention. You would think of him as some shli mazel that's just riding a donkey, which means that the coming of Mashiach will be a slow process, which in the beginning won't be overtly recognizable that this is a messianic redemption, and it won't necessarily be immediately supernatural, being clothed more in nature. Mashiach's first activities, he will act in a way that is closer to nature than to the supernatural. Now, the Gemara, the Talmud, and the Tractate Sanhedrin discusses these two verses, and the Gemara says that although there's a seeming contradiction between them, but it's not an inherent contradiction. Rather, there are two different manners, two distinct ways Mashiach could arrive. He could either arrive with the clouds of heaven if the Jewish people are meritorious, if zachu, or if loy zachu, if they're not meritorious, he will come like a poor person riding a donkey. Which means that if the Jewish people are meritorious, then the redemption right away will be clear, quick, in a supernatural way. If not, then the process of redemption will take on a much slower pace, more of a natural, it will be more clothed in nature, and obviously eventually the Jewish people reach a state of being meritorious, but in the beginning it will take more time and it won't be as quick and supernatural. Now, although it seems like Mashiach coming in the clouds of heaven is by far a much better, greater, wonderful approach to Mashiach, nevertheless there is an advantage in a poor person riding a donkey. And this is because Mashiach coming on the heavens represents Mashiach coming in a way which is higher than the world. He overpowers the world. He is coming with the clouds of heaven. However, Mashiach coming riding a donkey reflects, as our sages explain, our teachers of Kabbalah and Chassidus explain, that the word chamor, donkey, has the same letters as chomer, which means materialism. Riding a donkey means that we're subduing materialism, we're using it out. The donkey is becoming a rider for Mashiach. The donkey, the physicality of the world, is becoming a vehicle, a conduit for the revelation of godliness. This is also a deeper interpretation in the difference between being meritorious and not meritorious. The word zachu in Hebrew, which refers to meritorious, is connected with the word zchus or zach, which means pure, holy. The word loy zachu, not being meritorious, in which case Mashiach comes as a poor person riding on a donkey, means that we are dealing with things which are not inherently pure and meritorious. We're dealing with the physicality of the world, the coarseness of the world. But nevertheless, a poor person riding a donkey represents the advantage of bringing out how the coarseness of the world itself, we refine the coarseness of the world, and we eventually are able to bring out how that itself is a conduit for holiness. So sometimes we hope and we expect that Mashiach will come spontaneously, unexpectedly, quickly, in a clearly recognizable supernatural manner. At the same time, we have to realize that in our own personal lives, we have to focus also on the areas that are compared to a donkey, those areas which we look at as areas that we might have failed, that lo yizachu, we were not meritorious. By working in those areas, trying to refine them, trying to elevate them to holiness, and not just dealing with matters that are completely spiritual, completely supernatural, but dealing with the things which seem to be dark and far away from holiness, trying to bring them closer to holiness, that has a certain specific advantage, because through that we bring the light of Mashiach within the world itself. So how will Mashiach arrive? We will see when he will come. But in our own life, obviously, while we hope for the supernatural, which eventually anyway, Mashiach's coming will be supernatural, and our sages told us that now the Jewish people, because of all their suffering and all the Torah mitzvahs that they did throughout thousands of years, were in a state of zachu, of enough merit to have a supernatural redemption. But nevertheless, in our own personal lives, so we have to incorporate both approaches. From one hand, we have to do things that are supernatural and wonderful and completely go beyond our capacities. At the same time, we should not shy away from dealing with things which seem to be dark and things that are not so pure, not so clear. Try to bring them closer to Judaism. Try to deal with people which seem to have gone far away. Try to deal with ourselves and to refine even those parts of ourselves which seem to be more distant from holiness. Through that we bring Mashiach in a more internal way. Hashem should help. We should merit the coming of Mashiach speedily in our days. Amen.